My fiancé accidentally sent a voice memo meant for his sister, and what I heard about me made me leave the next morning. I, 29 female, left my fiancé, 32 male, of 3 years last week after I heard a voice memo he accidentally sent me that was meant for his sister. I'm writing this from my best friend's guest room, surrounded by hastily packed suitcases, trying to figure out how my entire life imploded in the span of 24 hours. Ethan and I met through mutual friends at a housewarming party. He was charming, intelligent, and we connected immediately over our shared love of hiking and indie films. Our relationship progressed quickly, moving in together after a year, getting engaged on our second anniversary. The wedding was set for next spring. We'd already booked the venue, sent save the dates, chosen our wedding party. I was shopping for dresses with my mom next weekend. There were no red flags. At least, none that I recognized. We argued occasionally like any couple, but nothing major. He got along with my family. I got along with his, especially his younger sister Megan, who I genuinely considered a friend. We talked about having kids, bought furniture together, planned vacations for next year. Everything seemed perfect. Last Wednesday night, I was working late at the hospital. I'm a pediatric nurse. Ethan texted that he was having dinner with Megan to discuss some wedding stuff. I thought nothing of it. They're close, and Megan was my maid of honor. I was exhausted after my shift and fell asleep almost immediately after getting home around midnight. Ethan wasn't home yet, but that wasn't unusual when he was out with friends or family. The next morning, I woke up to my phone buzzing with a notification. Ethan had sent me a voice memo at 1:23 a.m. I assumed he'd recorded a sweet goodnight message when he got home and saw I was asleep. He did that sometimes, little audio notes telling me he loved me or reminding me of inside jokes. I smiled as I pressed play, still groggy with sleep. What I heard changed everything. Hey Megs, just driving home now. God, dinner was exactly what I needed. I've been feeling so suffocated lately. Sarah's just so. I don't know. Not who I thought she was when we started dating. My heart stopped. He continued, his voice slightly slurred. He'd obviously been drinking. The closer we get to the wedding, the more I realize I'm just settling. She's fine, you know? Reliable. She'll be a good mom. But there's no excitement anymore. Nothing like what I had with Kristen. Kristen, his ex from before we met. The one he claimed was ancient history. Sometimes I wonder if I proposed because it seemed like the next logical step, not because I'm madly in love. Don't get me wrong, I care about her. But marriage? Forever? I don't know, Megs. When I see you and Daniel together, that spark you guys have even after 5 years. Sarah and I don't have that. Maybe we never did. I just fake it most of the time. I felt like I was underwater, sounds distorted, my vision blurring with tears. But what am I supposed to do now? Everything's planned. Everyone's expecting it. Mom and Dad love her. Your kids love her. It would destroy her if I backed out. And then what? Start over at 32? Maybe this is as good as it gets. Maybe the problem is me expecting some fairy tale bullshit. Anyway, I'm almost home. Don't tell Daniel I said any of this. Love you, sis. The memo ended. I sat frozen in bed, phone clutched in my trembling hand. I played it again, hoping I'd misheard, hoping this was some cruel joke. But there was no mistaking his voice, his words, the clear disappointment he felt when thinking about spending his life with me. I was just fine, reliable, someone he was settling for. I checked my phone again and saw there was a text from Ethan sent a minute after the voice memo. Shit, wrong person. Ignore that, it was meant for Megan. I'm exhausted and mixed up the contacts. Then another text. Sarah? You up? Please call me. And another. Baby, I'm so sorry. I was drunk and just venting. None of that was real. Please call me before you listen to it. But it was too late. I'd already heard every word. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold my phone. My throat felt tight, like I might suffocate on the betrayal rising inside me. 3 years of memories flashed through my mind. All those moments I thought we were blissfully in love. All those times he looked into my eyes and promised forever. Had he been faking it even then? I slipped out of bed and walked to the bathroom on unsteady legs. The woman in the mirror looked like a stranger. Pale face, red-rimmed eyes, a bewildered expression that seemed to ask, how did I not know? I splashed cold water on my face, trying to shock myself into some kind of clarity, but my thoughts remained a chaotic whirlwind of hurt and confusion. I heard his key in the door downstairs. My heart rate doubled instantly. I couldn't face him, not yet. Not when I felt like my chest had been cracked open and everything inside scooped out. I locked the bedroom door, turned off my phone, and cried silently as he knocked, calling my name with increasing desperation. Sarah, please. It wasn't what it sounded like. Please open the door. Let me explain. Explain what? That he didn't love me? That I was his backup plan, his safety net, his good enough? I was drunk, baby. I didn't mean any of it. Please talk to me. His voice cracked on the last word, and for a moment I almost relented. Almost. But then I remembered. I just fake it most of the time. How could I ever look at him again without wondering if he was faking it? How could I ever trust a single, I love you, after knowing he'd been comparing me to Kristen all this time? Sarah? I'm going to sleep on the couch. We can talk in the morning when you've had time to process. I love you. I'm so sorry. I heard his footsteps retreat down the hallway, the soft thud of his body dropping onto our living room couch. Eventually, his breathing evened out into sleep while I remained awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying his words over and over. I must have dozed off eventually because I woke to sunlight streaming through the curtains. For one blissful second, everything was normal. Then the memory of the voice memo crashed back, and the pain felt fresh all over again. I could hear Ethan moving around downstairs, the coffee maker running, cabinet doors opening and closing. He was waiting for me to come down, ready with his explanations and excuses. But what could he possibly say to undo what I'd heard? How could any explanation make it okay that he saw our relationship as settling for something as good as it gets, rather than the love story I thought we were living? I waited until he left for work the next morning. Then I packed what I could carry, called my best friend Emma to ask if I could stay with her, and walked out the door. I left my engagement ring on the kitchen counter with a note that simply said, I deserve someone who doesn't have to fake it most of the time. Goodbye, Ethan. It's been 3 days since I left Ethan's house and my entire reality has splintered into a before and after. Before, I was planning my wedding to a man I thought loved me completely. After, I'm sleeping on my best friend's pull-out couch, ignoring countless texts and calls, and trying to figure out who I am outside of the relationship I thought defined my future. The first day, Ethan called nonstop. His text started desperate, then angry, then pleading again. Please come home. We need to talk about this. You're overreacting. It was just drunk talk. Guys say stupid shit all the time. This isn't fair. You won't even let me explain. I love you. I've always loved you. Please don't throw away everything we build over one mistake. But it wasn't just one mistake, was it? It was a window into his true feelings, feelings he shared with his sister, but never with me. How many dinners had they had where I was the topic of conversation? How many times had he complained about settling for me? Emma has been my rock through all of this. When I showed up at her door with puffy eyes and 2 hastily packed suitcases, she didn't ask questions, just pulled me into a fierce hug and whispered, whatever it is, we'll figure it out together. Later, after I'd played her the voice memo, she held my hand across her kitchen table and said what I couldn't yet admit to myself. This is a blessing in disguise, Sarah. Better to know now than 5 years and 2 kids into a marriage. I've been trying to process everything in waves. One moment I'm furious. How dare he rob me of the future I thought we were building together? The next I'm devastated, mourning the loss of the man I thought I knew. Occasionally, treacherously, I wonder if I'm overreacting. Maybe it really was just drunk nonsense. Maybe everyone has moments of doubt before getting married. But then I remember his casual tone, the way he sounded more resigned than conflicted. She's fine, you know? Reliable. Like I was a practical car choice, not the love of his life. And the comparison to Kristen, that cuts deepest of all. For 3 years, whenever she came up in conversation, he dismissed their relationship as intense but immature. Now I know he's been measuring me against her all along and finding me wanting. My phone buzzed again yesterday afternoon. Megan this time. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won out. Sarah, please talk to me. Ethan is a mess. He made a terrible mistake. The mistake was sending the memo to me instead of you, I replied. Not how he actually feels. It's not that simple, she wrote back. He was stressed and drunk and just spiraling. He doesn't mean any of it. Did you know? All this time, did you know he felt this way about me? There was a long pause before her response came through. He's never talked like that before. I was shocked too. I think he's just freaking out about the wedding. I wanted to believe her. Part of me still does. But then I remember his voice, so casual, so honest. I just fake it most of the time. How can you come back from hearing something like that? Last night, I finally called my mom. I'd been avoiding it, knowing that once I told her, this would all become more real, more final. She listened quietly as I explained, interrupted only by occasional shocked gasps. When I finished, the silence stretched between us for so long I thought we'd been disconnected. Mom? Are you still there? I'm here, sweetheart, she finally said, her voice thick with emotion. I'm just processing. I always thought Ethan was one of the good ones. So did I whispered, tears starting again. What do you need right now? Do you want to come home for a while? Home. My childhood bedroom with its faded posters and twin bed. The thought was tempting, To retreat to a time before adult heartbreak, before I tied my future to someone who saw me as merely adequate. I don't know yet, I admitted. I need to figure some things out first. Whatever you decide, I support you. And Sarah? This doesn't reflect on you. This is about him, not you. But is it? That's the question keeping me up at night. Was there something I missed? Some sign that Ethan was unhappy? Did I ignore red flags because I was so in love with the idea of our life together? I've been replaying our entire relationship in my head, searching for moments where the mask slipped, where faking it might have been obvious if I'd been paying attention. Our sex life had dwindled a bit over the past year. Was that because he wasn't attracted to me anymore? He'd been working late more often. Was he avoiding coming home to me? Last month, when I suggested we start trying for a baby after the wedding, he'd seemed hesitant. Was that because he didn't want to be tied to me forever? Or am I just torturing myself, rewriting our history through the lens of his betrayal? This morning, Ethan showed up at Emma's door with coffee and my favorite pastries from the bakery across town. Emma intercepted him on the porch. "She's not ready to see you," I heard her say through the window. "I just need 5 minutes," he pleaded. "I need to explain." "Explain what, exactly?" Emma's voice was icy. "I heard the recording, Ethan. We all did. It wasn't real," he insisted. "I was drunk and talking shit. Guys do that. It doesn't mean anything. If it didn't mean anything, why say it at all? To your sister, of all people." He had no answer for that. After he left, Emma came inside, sat beside me on the couch, and took my hand. "What do you want to do about the wedding?" she asked gently. The wedding. God, I hadn't even thought about the practical aspects of all this. The deposits we'd lose. The guests we'd need to inform. The dress I'd never wear. "I guess I have to cancel everything," I said, the reality of it landing like a physical blow. "You don't have to do anything today," Emma assured me. "And you don't have to do it alone." She's right, of course. But there's a part of me that can't help feeling like I'm living in some cruel alternate reality. A week ago, I was excitedly comparing bridesmaid dress swatches and finalizing our honeymoon plans. Now I'm hiding out at my friend's apartment, trying to figure out how to untangle 3 years of shared life, shared friends, shared dreams. Do I fight for us? Could we recover from this? Or would I spend the rest of my life wondering if he's faking it every time he tells me he loves me? Tonight, I finally turned my phone back on and texted Ethan. "I need time to think. Please respect that and give me space. I'll reach out when I'm ready to talk." His response was immediate. "I love you. I'll wait as long as it takes." But the words that once would have comforted me now ring hollow. Because I know what he says when he thinks I'm not listening. And I can never unhear it. Update, 2 weeks later. It's been 15 days since I heard the voice memo that shattered my world. 15 days of staying with Emma, ignoring Ethan's increasingly desperate attempts to contact me, and trying to rebuild some sense of self outside of Ethan's fiancé. Yesterday, I finally agreed to meet him. Not because I'd forgiven him, but because I needed closure. We met at a neutral location, a coffee shop downtown where neither of us were regulars. I arrived first, deliberately choosing a table in the corner with clear sightlines to the exit. An escape route, just in case. When Ethan walked in, my heart lurched traitorously in my chest. He looked terrible, unshaven, dark circles under his eyes, clothes wrinkled like he'd slept in them. For a moment, I felt a flicker of sympathy. Then I remembered his words. I just fake it most of the time. He sat across from me, hands wrapped around his coffee cup like he needed the warmth. Neither of us spoke for a long moment. "Thank you for meeting me," he finally said. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak yet. "Sarah, what you heard, it wasn't real. I was drunk and stressed, and just venting to Megan. Everyone does that sometimes. Venting about traffic is normal, Ethan. Venting about your job is normal. Telling your sister that you're settling for your fiancé? That you're just marrying me because I'll be a good mom? That's not normal." He flinched. "I didn't mean any of it." "Then why say it at all? Drunk words are sober thoughts, isn't that what they say?" "It's not that simple," he insisted, leaning forward. "I love you. I've always loved you. But you're not in love with me," I said quietly. "There's a difference." "That's not true, isn't it? You compared us to your sister and her husband. Said we don't have that spark. Said you're basically settling because starting over seems too hard." He ran his hands through his hair, a gesture so familiar it hurt to watch. I was having a moment of cold feet. Everyone does before getting married. It doesn't mean I don't want to marry you. But should you? Should I marry someone who has to convince himself that this is as good as it gets? The question hung between us, heavy with implication. Ethan looked down at the table. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I never meant to hurt you." "But you did," I said, my voice surprisingly steady. "And worse than the hurt is knowing I would never have found out if you hadn't accidentally sent me that memo. We would have gotten married, had kids, build a life, all while you were secretly feeling trapped. It wouldn't have been like that, he insisted. How do you know? You said yourself that you've been feeling this way for a while. That I'm not who you thought I was. What does that even mean, Ethan? When did I change? Or did you just stop seeing me clearly? He couldn't answer that. He just kept saying he was sorry, that he'd do anything to fix this, that we could go to couples therapy, postpone the wedding, whatever I needed. But what I needed was honesty. So I asked the question that had been haunting me. Do you still think about Kristen? His hesitation was answer enough. I don't compare you to her, he said finally. That's not fair. But you did. In the memo, you said we don't have what you had with her. It was different with her. Not better, just different. Different how? He squirmed in his seat. More volatile, I guess. Higher highs, lower lows. With you, everything is steady. Reliable. There was that word again. Reliable. Like I was a Toyota Camry. Dependable but boring. I like that steadiness, he added quickly, seeing my expression. It's good. It's what I want long term. But it wasn't what he dreamed of, was it? I was the sensible choice, the safe option, the woman he was settling for because starting over seemed too hard. I felt something shift inside me then, a final thread snapping, the last bit of hope dissolving. I think we're done here, I said, standing up. Sarah, please. No, Ethan. I deserve better than this. I deserve someone who's excited to marry me, not someone who has to talk himself into it. As I walked out of the coffee shop, I felt lighter than I had in weeks. The pain was still there, but something else was growing alongside it, a sense of self-worth I hadn't realized I'd been compromising. When I got back to Emma's, I found a large envelope waiting for me. Inside was a letter from Megan. My heart pounded as I opened it, bracing for more defense of her brother, more attempts to minimize what he'd said. Instead, I found an apology. Sarah, I'm so sorry. What Ethan said was inexcusable, and I should have called him on it that night instead of just listening. The truth is, he's been struggling with commitment anxiety ever since our parents' messy divorce last year. That doesn't excuse what he said about you, but I thought you should know there's context I didn't share with you. Their parents' divorce? Ethan had mentioned they were separating, but he'd brushed it off as amicable and a long time coming. He never said it was affecting him deeply. Another thing he'd kept from me while confiding in his sister. The letter continued. I also want you to know that in the 3 years you've been together, that dinner was the only time he ever expressed doubts. Usually, he talks about how lucky he is to have found you. I think he got scared and convinced himself he was somehow repeating our parents' mistakes. Again, not an excuse, just context. I folded the letter carefully and put it back in the envelope. It didn't change anything, not really. But it helped me understand that Ethan's issues weren't a reflection of my worth. They were his own demons to battle. Today, I signed a lease on a small apartment near the hospital. It's tiny and the kitchen needs updating, but it's mine. A fresh start. I've also begun the painful process of canceling wedding arrangements. Each call feels like ripping off another bandage, but also like reclaiming pieces of myself. My dress appointment? Canceled. The venue? Deposit forfeited. The flowers? Rerouted to a local nursing home. This isn't the ending I imagined for us, but maybe it's the beginning I needed for myself. Update, 3 months later. It's strange how life can simultaneously move both too quickly and too slowly after a major upheaval. These past 3 months have been a blur of establishing routines in my new apartment, throwing myself into work, and trying to rediscover who Sarah is when she's not defined by her relationship with Ethan. I got a promotion at the hospital last month, pediatric nursing coordinator, a position I'd been eyeing for years but somehow always found reasons to put off pursuing. The wedding planning takes so much time, I told myself. We might start trying for a baby soon after. It's embarrassing to realize how much I'd subconsciously limited my own ambitions to fit around a future that was never as solid as I believed. The first month in my apartment was the hardest. I'd wake up reaching for Ethan, momentarily confused by the unfamiliar surroundings. The silence was deafening after years of sharing space. No one else is breathing, no coffee maker running downstairs, no gentle arguments about whose turn it was to walk the dog. Ethan kept Bruno, our golden retriever. It made sense. The house has a yard, and I work longer hours. But I miss that dog almost as much as I miss Ethan some days. Speaking of Ethan, we've established a fragile sort of peace. After one final, 4-hour conversation where we both said things that had needed saying for years, we agreed to a clean break. No friendship, no casual check-ins, no social media connections. It was too painful, too fraught with what-ifs and might-have-beens. In another life, we could have been happy, he said as we parted. I really do love you, Sarah. I know, I replied. Just not enough. Or not in the right way. He didn't argue, which told me everything. Megan reached out a few weeks after that. asking if we could still be friends despite everything. I appreciated the gesture, but it felt impossible. She'd always be his sister first, and every conversation would be a minefield of avoided topics. Some relationships are collateral damage and breakups, and this was one of them. My mom comes to visit every other weekend, bringing home-cooked meals and helping me slowly transform the apartment into a home. She never says, "I told you so," even though she had expressed gentle concerns about how quickly Ethan and I moved in together, how young we were when we got engaged. Instead, she helps me hang artwork and suggests paint colors and reminds me that heartbreak, like everything else, is temporary. Last week, I ran into Kristen, Ethan's ex, the one he compared me to in that fateful voice memo. It was at a local brewery where my nursing school friends and I were celebrating a colleague's birthday. I recognized her immediately from old photos Ethan had never quite gotten around to removing from his Facebook. She was with a group of women, laughing loudly, her hair shorter than in the pictures, but her smile just as bright. For a moment, I considered leaving. Then curiosity won out, and I approached her as she stood alone at the bar waiting for drinks. "This is going to sound bizarre," I said, "but I'm Sarah. I was engaged to Ethan Walker." Her eyes widened in recognition. "Oh my God, Sarah. I've heard so much about you." Then, realizing how that sounded, "All good things, I promise." An awkward silence fell between us. I wasn't sure what I'd expected from this encounter. Validation that she was somehow less than me? Confirmation that she was indeed the exciting, passionate alternative to my steady reliability? Instead, I found myself faced with just another woman, one who had her own history with the man who broke my heart. "I just wanted to say hello," I said lamely. "This is weird. I shouldn't have it." "No, it's fine," she said quickly. "Actually, can I buy you a drink? I feel like we might have some interesting conversations." And so we did. For 2 hours, Kristen and I sat in a corner booth and compared notes on the man we both loved. She told me about their volatile relationship, how passionate but unstable it had been, how they'd broken up and gotten back together 6 times in 3 years. He was always looking for something, she said, nursing her beer. Some perfect relationship that doesn't exist. With us, it was all drama and make-up sex and grand gestures. When it was good, it was incredible. When it was bad, well, it was a nightmare. With us, it was steady, I said. Reliable. I couldn't keep the bitter edge from my voice. She looked at me thoughtfully. "You know, he used to talk about that with such admiration. How you were his rock, how he'd never felt so secure with anyone. Until he didn't want security anymore. Or until he convinced himself he didn't," she countered. "Ethan's got issues, Sarah. His parents' marriage was a disaster, and he grew up thinking relationships had to be full of passion and conflict to be real. Then he found something healthy and stable with you, and part of him couldn't trust it. Couldn't believe it would last. It was strange, receiving this insight from someone who had once been my subconscious rival. Stranger still to realize that what I perceived as my inadequacy, my steadiness, my reliability, had initially been what drew Ethan to me. For what it's worth, Kristen said as we parted ways, I think he made a huge mistake. And someday he'll realize it. Tonight, as I write this from my tiny balcony, watching the sunset paint the city golden, I'm struck by how differently I feel about that voice memo now. 3 months ago, it was a devastating betrayal, proof that I wasn't enough. Now I see it for what it was, a moment of weakness from a man struggling with his own demons, his own inability to recognize the value of what he had. I still have bad days. Days when I miss our easy companionship, our shared jokes, the future we'd planned together. Days when I pass by wedding shops and feel a stab of what might have been. But those days are growing fewer, the pain less acute. If I could go back to that morning when I first heard Ethan's voice saying those awful things about me, I wouldn't change my response. Walking away was the right choice, not because Ethan is a bad person, but because we both deserved more than a marriage built on settling and secret doubts. I don't know what happens next in my story. For the first time in years, my future isn't mapped out in joint decisions and compromise. It's just mine, terrifying and thrilling in equal measure. But I do know this. I am more than just reliable. More than someone's backup plan or safe choice. I'm complicated and loving and ambitious and worthy of someone who never has to question whether choosing me was settling. And for now, that knowledge is enough to carry me forward, one day at a time, into whatever comes next.